Fresh off of a big weekend for the Democratic contenders, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders will join Bret Baier in just 1 hour from now for a special live Democratic presidential town hall on Special Report. It comes on the heels of their fiery debate last night in Flint, Michigan, where Sanders turned up the heat on Clinton and things got intense. Take a look.
I voted to save the auto industry. He voted against the money that ended up saving the auto industry. I think that is a pretty big difference.
Well, if you are talking about the Wall Street bailout, where some of your friends destroyed this economy,
you know,
excuse me, I'm talking.
I have said, and I will say again, I'll be happy to release anything I have as long as everybody else does too.
I release it. Here it is. There ain't nothing. I don't give speeches to Wall Street for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Goes like this. And when asked about her email controversy last night, Clinton deflected and instead criticized GOP frontrunner Donald Trump, proving once again her sights are on the general election.
The Republican frontrunner, Donald Trump, says he's going to talk about your emails every single day if he's the nominee and out on the campaign trail. If you're the nominee, how are you going to take him on?
The last time I checked, as of last night, Donald Trump had received 3.6 million votes, which is a good number. And there's only one candidate in either party who has more votes than him, and that's me.
Special Report anchor Bret Baier joins us from Detroit with a preview of the big Clinton versus Sanders showdown tonight. So, Bret, there's been several debates so far, both Republican and Democratic, and there's been several town halls that the Democrats have held, but this is the first one on Fox News. What sort of different things might viewers find out tonight that they haven't heard so far from them?
Well, listen, we're excited to have both of them, first of all, and it's a big deal here on Fox News Channel. What they're going to hear are some questions that haven't been asked before, as we did with the Republican debate on Thursday, trying to ask things in different ways and topics that have not been brought up on these town halls or debates. Actually coming off of the debate in Flint, as you played some of those fiery exchanges, and this is a different format, and it is great to have both a debate and a town hall to be able to get into the weeds a little bit more, let people hear, the Michiganders in the audience, ask questions as well, and it'll be a good mix between me and the people on the floor behind me.
All right, we're going to take it around the table, and Eric Bolling's going to kick it off.
Bret, I know the answer to this already. I just think our viewers need to hear it right from you, a great journalist that you are. Was there anything that was agreed to be off limits prior to getting Hillary Clinton and or Bernie Sanders on with you?
No, there's absolutely no stipulations. No questions were off the table. I'm allowed to actually ask as many questions as I want to within the time constraints. I want to balance it out, obviously, with the audience here who desperately want to ask these two candidates some questions. By the way, the audience, Eric, is a mix of undecided Democratic voters. There's some independents in here. Remember, Michigan is an open primary tomorrow, so you actually have a few people in this crowd who are deciding between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. There's a couple who are deciding between Marco Rubio and Hillary Clinton, they said. And there are supporters of Sanders, supporters of Clinton who haven't made up their mind as of yet. So there's a great mix. There are no stipulations on the type of questions, how many questions. I can follow up, I can interrupt, but I plan to be, respectful but forceful.
All right, Juan Williams.
So, Bret, last night, Bernie Sanders made quite a comment about if you're white, you don't know what it's like to be poor. I wonder if he has something to say to Bret Baier tomorrow to try to clean this up.
Tomorrow? We're talking about in an hour.
No. When I was watching yesterday on Sunday, I thought about...
Oh, when you were watching? Oh, yeah. Gotcha. Sorry, I didn't hear that. Yes. So, yeah, listen, there's going to be some things from the debate that we will follow up on. And there's plenty of follow-up things that came out of that are newsworthy. I think what's key to look at the questions here are two things. One, ideally something that we haven't heard before or in a way that we haven't heard before. And two, let the news drive it. What is the newsiest thing that is going to come out about this? I think the fact that we're doing it, period, is newsworthy in and of itself. But that aside, you want to get to the substance and the meat of some different issues that help voters decide what they're going to choose.
Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Hi, Brett. So congratulations on this.
Hi.
Very proud of you, and it's great for the network. And then they'll see how it's done right. I want to ask you this. One of the first things that comes to mind if I had the opportunity to question Hillary Clinton would be obviously about the emails, her server, and about the grant of immunity to Brian Pagliano. Do you think that subject might come up tonight?
It may. It very well may. I don't want to lay out all of the blueprint here, but sure, I bet that would come up. Obviously, she was asked one question as you played there last night, but chose not to go down that road. But there'll be a variety of questions on a host of policy issues, and I don't want to lay them all out here for the 5, because you know they watch the 5.
They're probably watching right now. So
all the candidates.
Yeah, respectfully
Republicans
decline
and
to
Democrats.
state.
Hey, Brett, before we have Brian ask you a question, I just want to mention that apparently it's just breaking news that Michael Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York City, has said that he will not run for president. So that is just breaking news, and I guess it would have been more news if he'd said he is going to run, but he is not going to run, I think, as expected. So we're going to have Brian ask you the last question.
Probably good news for Secretary Clinton.
Right. So that was my question. So I'll pass. Kidding.
Okay.
Hey, Brett, it's the third time we spoke. We only speak on national television. That's our relationship. But third time we spoke today. But real quick, I love what the format's going to be, half hour and half hour, and you're only going to take 5 or 6 minutes up top, one-on-one, and then it's up to the audience to step up where you can follow up. Interesting take on that. Were both candidates okay with the way you're approaching it?
Yeah, they were fine. The campaigns have been really great to work with. They've been there's a give and take as far as, you know, they like the setup, they like the format. I think they're comfortable in this town hall format. It does allow them to answer things a little bit longer, perhaps, than the 1 minute with the moderator, the bell ringing, without that happening. And so no restrictions. The crowd here have some great questions that they'll be asking as many of them as we can fit in the 30 minutes for each candidate.
Brett, one last question for you. We opened with a soundbite from Hillary Clinton last night talking about the auto bailout and the tit-for-tat that she and Bernie Sanders were having last night. But fact checkers across the board today saying that Hillary Clinton had that wrong last night. I imagine in Michigan that's probably an important point to bring up.
Well, it is. And, you know, this is one of the troubles of running for president from the Senate, because you have to talk about some votes that are pretty convoluted when you get down to the weeds of voting for something, voting against something, voting for cloture. And to explain that in a soundbite is a little difficult. But straightening that out is important, probably.
All right. Thank you so much, Brett. We're all going to be watching, and I'm going to run upstairs, and instead of going home, I think I'm going to watch, because I don't want to miss it.
I think you should put your sensible shoes on and just, boom, move it up to 17.
The thing is, I do have sensible shoes, because I try to walk home, but every time I put them on around Kimberly, I'm terribly embarrassed.
Really?
Do you get the same feeling?
Well, no. My shoes that I commit to in the morning, I come in here fully dressed. I'm going to look all day. I see Eric come walking in. I don't know about you, Juan. You're wearing something totally different. Whether it's a snap-on jumpsuit, I'm not sure what it is.
None of that. But no,
Snap-on tools.
Can I comment on something Brett said that I found was really, really interesting? That there were groups that, because it's an open primary, meaning you can cross lines. If you're Democrat, you can vote Republican and vice versa. That there were the correlation was Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. They're trying to figure that out. And Hillary Clinton and Marco Rubio, the same thing that's going on the right with the insider-outsider is going on the left. Very fascinating.
It's like algebra. 2 mirror sides of the equation.
Well, let's be honest. Michigan's not going to be close. If the polls are, this is a layup for Hillary Clinton. So if she's ever going to do a town hall, the nomination's not in the balance, and the state is not up for grabs. It's hers.
It's also interesting that because it's on Fox, a lot of our viewers will, because they always want to watch Special Report and they haven't seen a Democratic town hall yet, one on this network, that, I mean, a lot more people will be exposed to Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton tonight than had been before.
Just by sheer numbers of our viewers.
Sure.
Yeah, well, and by the way, it's not the case that just Republicans watch Fox. I can tell you that.
Right.
Well, I wouldn't have suggested that.
Right, but I'm just, you know what's interesting to me is that when you look at this past weekend, Bernie Sanders had a pretty good weekend, right? I think he won 3 of the 4 contests.
Yeah.
But the one he lost was the one with the big share of the delegates, Louisiana. So overall, now you're looking at like Sanders having won 8 of 19. But he's nowhere near winning Michigan, as you were pointing out. Brian, and nowhere near having enough delegates to pose a significant challenge, even as we approach some of these states up north where he thinks he has a better chance because there are fewer African-American voters. But in a state like Michigan, there are African-American voters and tremendous organizing by the unions, especially for the auto industry.
Can I get Eric's take on something? So earlier today, Michael Moore tweeted that in Flint, Michigan, there's been 84 years of Democratic rule or something like that. And you know, one of the big arguments last night was the tragic situation with the water in Flint, Michigan. But like Michael Moore is saying to people, like, wake up. I mean, this wasn't necessarily a Republican problem. This is a local governance problem.
Yeah, how in the world can it be a Republican? Because there's a Republican governor. I mean, this is a city and local issue that they, and by the way, there have been 40 or so years of Democrats running Detroit and Flint, Michigan, both cities. They made a decision to change the water supply from X water supply to Y water supply without testing the water, and that was done at a local level. Sure, yes, the governor had to sign off on it. I
sure did. It's not all local.
No, but it's a local.
So did Obama's EPA.
Stop. It's an EPA. Local EPA, state EPA, and a federal EPA.
You are so guilty. You are rushing to try to escape responsibility.
So wait, is this Obama's problem?
Oh my God!
No, it's Obama.
Well, why stop at governor? Why not go straight
the
up to
governor
the top?
signed the deal. The governor was constructing the whole deal to try to lower the cost of water supplies to Flint.
It's not worth having this argument with you.
Because
on the local level, it's Democrats. At the state level, it's Republican, and on the federal level, it's Democrats.
If you want to make this case, you know what would be better? Let's talk about schools, which came up last night, where I think both candidates were asked, what would you do about improving the quality of education? Hillary Clinton couldn't answer the question because she refused to move away from the NEA and the AFT. And I think both candidates, if you want to talk about poor quality of education, there's an issue where I think Democrats have some culpability.
And how is education different from water?
When you bring up schools and you drop kick it and you don't bring it
Yeah,
up.
but the problem is, Juan, we're just looking for a little maturity at this table, for once, and to say, how about some shared responsibility? Yes, there's the governor who's a Republican.
You're trying to avoid responsibility.
But at the local level, it's Democrats, and higher up, it's President Obama and his EPA.
You're trying to leapfrog a local municipality, a local decision, right to the state and forget the federal level. Why don't you do apply the same to education?
I'm not
you do to water?
Let me just say, if I sign a check to you, it's my check. The governor and the entire governor's administration has admitted. In fact, they were having trouble with emails they didn't want to disclose. But they've admitted they have some responsibility here. I don't think, by the way, in concession to you, I'll say this. When I hear Sanders and Clinton say the governor has to resign, I think, you know what? You're playing politics. Let's fix this problem.
Well, and that's actually the reason I brought that up was because I thought it was interesting that Michael Moore said that he was pointing the finger at Democrats, and I'm sure he would blame Republicans too.